Okay, so let's officially get started. People are still jumping in, but welcome to everybody who's here early on a morning that most everybody's not even started back to school. So glad that you are here. My name is Marley Knapp. I am a digital learning coordinator lead, or digital learning lead coach at Uwari Charter Academy, which is in the Asheboro area. So what we're going to do today is explore a little bit about learner profiles and create some learner profiles or get a gist on how to create some that we can really use throughout the year. All about gathering the data that we want to find about our students and really get to know what their needs are, what their interests are, what their passions are, and use that throughout the year. So that's kind of what we're here about. On the slideshow, there should be a link to the slide on every page. I think you should be able to see that okay. Every page should have a link to the slideshow. There's right here, the bit.ly/bold profiles. But if you find you need it, throw it in the chat. Throw a question in the chat and I can throw the link back out there again. If you have not downloaded the Performance Matters app, go ahead and get that downloaded at some point because that is what you will use for receiving your credit. You've probably been in the ENISAs in order to register for this, but the app will help you with your getting registered and also getting your credit. There'll be a QR code at the end of the session that you'll be able to scan with that app. So I'm going to take this link as well and put it in the chat. So there's a link there as well. So you can get that Performance Matters app so you can scan that code at the end. And we'll have some time at the end to do that as well. So there's another welcome for you. If you're still getting situated, take a moment to jump on the slideshow if you have not, and the link is right here at the bottom of the page. You can type that in. It's also in the chat. And jump on the Padlet and share who you are, where you are, what you do, which cat are you today, and something exciting you did this summer. Also, we don't have time to actually do this in our session today, but if you haven't had a chance to play with your badge, since we're not physically at the conference, it's virtual, we have virtual badges. I'm going to click on this and bring up my sample badge so you can see that you can create your badge, put your name and information in, and there's all the little stickers that you're usually able to put up underneath your badge when you're at a conference. They have all kinds of fun ones. So I made this badge. This is my badge. And there's a link there so you can see my badge whenever you want. Click on the pictures and you can get a bigger view of those pictures. So there's a link here that takes you to the Google slide deck that helps you create that badge just for fun. So this link is there. We don't have time to do this during the session today, but it's there for us to have some fun. Okay, I'll skip just a minute more. Let me jump over the Padlet, see if there's any new ones that were added. Yeah, lots of people jumping in. A lot of Cat 3s. I was definitely a Cat 3 as well. But then we have another branch. You've got some 9s, some 7s, some 6s, some 8s. And I look forward to sharing. Oh, someone's got a wedding coming up. Congratulations. Summer school, yay. So I'll look forward to looking through these in more detail to see what everybody shared. And of course, you have access to the Padlet, so you'll see everything here as well whenever you need to get back to it. So let's jump down to the digital learning competencies that are related to this particular session. It's going to hit a lot of those competencies. And if you're familiar with these digital learning competencies from North Carolina, I'm going to bring up the page so you can see them. These right here, if you're familiar with these, we're hitting a lot of these. We're going to hit a couple in leadership, like taking initiative with professional growth, promote open lifelong learning. You're going to definitely hit these. Content instruction, we're going to hit nearly everything. It's going to address most everything because you're really working on giving a enriched learning experience to your students with the digital resources. And in data, we're going to hit a lot of these because it's all about multiple uses of data, multiple uses of assessment, and how do we use that data to drive our learning, like really get deep and be able to create it and differentiate and set up a student-centered learning, environment for our students. So we really want to learn a lot today about how to get the data so we can go really into that. So we're going to hit a lot of these competencies while we do this today. So this is my why. The why I feel like this is such a powerful thing for us is being able to focus on students gives them that opportunity for that choice and that voice, and it fosters that student-led learning, creating, and goal setting. So we're going to talk a lot about different ways to consider that while we're using our data. I get a lot of my inspiration from George Couros. If you have ever heard of George Couros, give a thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. I love him to death. He is the author of The Innovator's Mindset, and it really talks about giving a different look at the way you want to reinvent your classroom. And so if you've ever heard of him, give a thumbs up. Up here there's a link to a document right here that is a lot of just, let me bring this link up, neat little images from his book that just kind of help inspire you on ways you might want to reinvent the classroom, rethink your classroom, focus on your students' needs and their interests and their strengths. So, and you click on each picture, you'll get a little bit bigger view. Like I just saw this tweet that he had shared one time about, asking your students what do they want in the classroom and completely reforming your classroom based on what the students really needed. Let them drive that learning. And there's some other good ones about, 5 questions to ask your students as you start the school year. Just some really neat little thoughts to put in there. So this link is in the slideshow of all of those George Couros Innovator's Mindset thoughts. So let's take a minute back on the Padlet again and tell me, what is your why? Why did you think about jumping into this session and wanted to look at, how to profile our kids and ways of thinking about gathering information about our students? What is your why? So in here in the Padlet, jump in and share with me what your why is. Mine I put down at the bottom is mine. I really want to get to know my students on a deeper level so I can focus on their interests and needs as I develop lessons. And of course, I don't have my own classroom of students. I'm usually working with the teachers to help them do this, but I think this is so important. So jump in. If you already added something, that's fine. You can go back and add another one, or you can just add on to yours. So let's take a few minutes and just let you guys jump in and add your why. What is your why? And if you need the slideshow link, I'm going to put it in there one more time, because the slideshow's got all the links we need. So that link to the slideshow is in the chat right now, so you can jump in and take a look. And let's just give you a couple minutes to share your why in the Padlet. And I'll jump over to the Padlet in a moment. We can look at it. And I'll just do a quick check-in. Everybody can hear me, right? If you can't, mention something in the chat and we'll try to figure out why you're not able to hear or see something in particular. I'm going to jump over to the Padlet real quick, take a look. Student engagement increasing, I love that. Focusing on students. I know some people are still typing in. I want to figure out the best way to help students learn content, love that. Better serving our students. So seeing a trend here that we want to focus on our students, better serve them, better find out what it is they need. Learning preferences is a big thing. I like the restoration idea that someone shared. These are great. Thank you for sharing these. I'll take just a minute or so more and then we'll jump on. Well, I love that someone shared, I want to be the teacher that I would like my own children to have. I love that. Everybody here is so passionate about their teaching. And you know, obviously, which is why you're here today, which is amazing. All right. So you can keep adding to that Padlet if you need to. I'm going to jump over to the next slide and just talk a little bit about gathering information. What are some of the ways that we would like to gather our information, such as a survey? And I'm going to share right here are links to two surveys that one of our fifth grade teachers, she and I did these surveys with the students to gather and start working on learning profiles with them. We did one based on the multiple intelligence and she created a really good one on student interest. And it's got a lot of questions in it. It takes a while for the kids to fill out and you kind of have to help them with some of the questions depending on their age level, but it's great. And of course, you can take this and tweak it any way you want. If you want copies of these surveys for yourself, just click these links and it'll give you the option to make a copy of that survey of your very own. Now that's in Google. If you're Microsoft, I'm afraid I do not have these in the OneDrive format, but you're welcome to take a look at these two anytime you need to get the ideas and create your own survey. So we'll look at those in just a moment. Assessment data, anything from our formative or our summatives, our EOG, our EOC, if you have iReady, if you have AimsWeb, any of those things. You still need requests for both surveys. And I worked so hard to try to make sure that I had those. If that's not working, if you can't get access to these surveys, go ahead and try these bottom ones that are click to get your own copies and see if you can get a copy of it and at least open the copy. Let me know if that's working. Are these two right here asking for? So Eve, are you saying that the bottom two are asking for access? All right, I can fix that. You can see the top two, Eve? Okay. So if we can't, I'll work on making sure we get access. One thing is making sure you're logged into your Google account. That might be a part of the problem, is making sure you're logged in. And if you already are, I will work on that. I'm gonna put a note right down real quick to double check the survey copies when we're done today. Did anybody else have trouble getting the copies of the surveys to work for you so that you can get your own copy? Okay, Eve, I think we're probably, so a lot of people having that same issue that you can't get the copies. I will make sure that's fixed. So by tomorrow or definitely by Friday, I should be able to have the links to these two fixed. So you'll be able to access them outside of my domain. So everybody's in the situation where they can access the first two, just not the second two, correct? Okay, cool. I'll make sure that that's fixed. So at least you can see the first two. So you can actually get a look at it. Because here's what we should be seeing if you click those. This is the student profile, the student interest one. And we ask things like favorite activities, favorite subjects, least favorite subject, what do you find difficult? We could even add in here, the one thing we didn't add in here is how do you like to learn? Things like, like I like to learn in a group. I like to learn independently. Things like those are other questions we could have asked. This particular one, we didn't have it in there. We did things like them to tell me, their interest level on a lot of different kinds of things, hobbies and such. Favorite games and sports. Just really dug deep into a lot of information on what they were interested in, what they liked, what they didn't like. So we were really working on, trying to get that info from the students. So this is a really long survey that we spent almost a class period just getting that info from the kids. Another one that she developed, this teacher, her name is Bobby Scott. She's a fifth grade teacher. We developed this one. And this is all based on those 8 or 9 multiple intelligence, like musical abilities, intrapersonal, visual, people that have those different intelligences. And so each section with some yes or no's on, do they have these? And we told them answer as honest as you can so we can really get a gist of what type of intelligences are strong in them. And so there was one section for each. And this particular one, she found 9 intelligence. Some have had an 8, and she's also seen a 9th intelligence. So that's where we put this survey together and had them answer that as well. So we spent a class period kind of working on these 2 surveys with the kids. So if you can get the first 2 links, you at least see these for now. And I'll work on that access for those links. And so if you go back to the slideshow later, I should by tomorrow or so have these working. And I apologize that they're not. I kept trying and testing and they were working, but for some reason they just don't seem to be working. So I'll work on making the copies for you because that's really nice to be able to have an automatic copy. Okay, so another option, of course, we talked about data, formative, summative, testing data, things you do with little formative, summative, or little formative quick information like bell ringers and exit tickets, or ways to get a quick bit of info, a little poll you might want to give the students. I also did this with the middle school students a couple of years ago. We had like a passion board. We had an activity right at the beginning of the year about, we showed like people who show what they can do, like people who really get out there and just do amazing things. So we talked about some of these people, like the 3 ladies from Hidden Figures and some of the athletes that really can show what they can do, things like that. And then we talked about, well, what can you do? What can we do? And the kids all determined what their passion was. And they wrote up an I can statement. I can go to college. I can be an athlete. I can be a pro. And they put all over the board the different things that were passionate about. And we left this up all year long. And I would be able to refer to it periodically to know what it was the kids were wanting, where they wanted to take their lives, and what direction they wanted to go into as a 6th, 7th, or an 8th grader. And we kept it up. It's a really nice tool to have in the classroom. So that's another way. It's like a sharing wall or a passion board. Anybody got other data ideas of how they would gather data from your kids? Throw them in the chat real quick. Type up some ways that I didn't list here that you might use to gather information from your kids. You may have any thoughts to throw into the chat right now? I'll give everybody a minute or so to throw something in if you got an idea. Don't see anything. Yeah, great using these just to get to know students as a starting point. I mean, just great things for your first day of school when you come in, just to have a few little quick polls for them. Or you could break bad and go ahead and decide to give them the surveys too, some kind of survey. Hot seat with the kids. Each one of them gets to answer a series of questions like those. That's cool. And you can gather that information. And if you decide to you do anything electronically, you can gather it in some kind of polling tool, and that way you have the information. Otherwise, you can get it on paper-based. Everything we're talking about today can be paper-based or it can be electronic. You can go either way. Digital desks to share news like that. I'm going to try to make sure I gather this chat transcript today and share that as well. So that will be, and I've got a place where all of the links are shared, so we'll be able to share this chat transcript as well. So yes, people shared some good ideas. I like those ideas, and I can kind of maybe pull those and add them on the slideshow right here. All right, does anybody have any other quick questions? And while we're at it, let's move on and talk about questions. So what kind of information, first of all, let me go to the document. The questions document on this slideshow, there is a link that says this document. That will take you to the questions document. Let me bring it up. That is a place for you to ask questions. So if the chat's getting full, I can't find your question, I definitely would find it here. So on the left-hand side, put your question and I will fill it out on the right-hand side. And the first question I put in are, what are all the links? So up here I have the slide presentation, got the Padlet. We're going to be using Answer Garden and Dot Storming later. There's links there. I'll probably try to see if I can find a way to link the chat transcript right here, so you'll have that as well. So that is the questions document. Whenever you need it, just jump to it and throw the questions in there. And also right now, I would love to ask you guys, what kind of information would you like to gather from your students? Like some of the things you saw in the survey, or just something different. What do I want to know about my kids? Like one of the things that I realized one day when I was sitting there watching our students leave for school after the ACT, and I heard kids talking, and I heard a student just happen to mention, yeah, it takes me about 45 minutes to get to school every day. And that made me think that's something good that I would want to know about my kids. What is their commute to school? If a student has a 45-minute commute here and home, that might have an effect on the way things happen during the day. That would be information I would love to know. So let's go to this link on here for the answer garden. And let's jump to that. And when you pick up the link, it'll look like this. And as soon as you type an answer and hit submit, it'll pop up and start making a word cloud. And you may have seen the answer garden before. Yeah, I love Catherine's statement here in the chat about it's good to make sure we know what they don't like as well as what they like. And that's why we put that on our surveys. Like, what's your favorite subject? What's your least favorite subject? And if it's your subject that's their least favorite, it's nice to know that so you can help that child maybe find something about it that they might love. So in the answer card, let me put this back up here. The link is here in the slideshow. Start throwing in information. And as I hit refresh, we'll start to see the responses. Let me hit refresh, see if we got any responses. Nothing yet. Let me make sure it is working. There we go. I'll keep refreshing so we can see it. Oops. Let me try refreshing again. It's taking it a minute to refresh. It's trying to refresh. It's coming. There we go. And of course, if it's bigger word, we're getting some of the same things like changes to family were two responses for some of these bigger words. Learning styles, favorite subjects, their passion, their skills, their family information, what they don't like, which is important, like what Catherine said. The way that they learn, I think, is really important. There's different ways of asking that question, like, do you like to be in a group individual or all whole classroom? Do you like to do it on paper? Do you like it on the computer? Get this info from the kids and really dig deep. So these are some great responses that everybody's sharing. And there'll be a link to this answer garden so you can get back and look at this whenever you want to see some of people's ideas. Let me refresh one more time. See how long it takes to refresh. Oh, I like what Eve shared. You can click on someone else's response in the answer garden and submit it so you can beef up that word. The worries. I like their worries. We need to know that information these days. All right, so I'll move back over here. And thank you all for sharing that. We can keep exploring and revising, going back to that when we need to. All right, so what we're going to do for a little while now is look at 4 or so different ways to plow through the data once we've got the spreadsheet. So whenever you create a form for kids, whether it's Google or if you're using something with Microsoft, you'll get a spreadsheet of their information, all that data that they shared. And let's look at different ways to plow through that. I'm going to pull up, right here are links to 2 different examples just to view right now. That should allow you to view. I should have the access for those set the way we need to. So here's an example of the spreadsheet that we put together that came up from all of that student information, the student interest survey. So there it is chock full. So over here, this is the actual data from the kids. We just changed the names to Jane Doe for this duplicate copy of it. So this is just an example of it. And I'll talk about the color stuff, the color coding in just a little bit, but you'll see all the ways that all the information came out. So you can look through all this, and then we can start really digging deep in how to analyze this data. Is there anybody that could not see this view, this example, when you clicked it? Yeah, I'll put the link for the slideshow in the chat for you also, Chris. Let me do that. There you go. And Chris, it's also at the bottom of every slide we're on when we're on the slides too. So, oops, I sent it to just one person to fix that. There you go. All right, so let me go back to the slideshows. So this is the information, the data that came up from the student interest survey. And this is what the data looked like from the multiple intelligences survey. So it would come up with each yes, no question at the top with all the responses. And I kind of did something special with this column. I'm not going to go into this today, but if anybody would love to know how I did this, let me know and I'll just get you some information on how I did it. But I used a formula to do a calculation of how many yeses they had in this particular area. So I know that my high numbers of yeses are going to be kids that are musical. So in this particular case, the highest I think I had was 6. I might have had, this had 6 responses. So the ones that were very musical would have 6 responses, and so on with the other intelligences. I think the highest here was an 8. And so I have a student right here that's very much the naturalist, which are what these particular logic, brain puzzles, adjusting to changes, and sort of adaptable, sensitive to nature, things like that is where this particular student right here is very heavy in. So, and then some of them had like a lot of high yeses in several areas. So other ones that I'm interested. If you're definitely interested, you definitely shoot me an email so I can show you how I did that formulation. I can even make a little video maybe and send it to you. So shoot me an email and say, I want to know how you did the video chart, the spreadsheet calculations, and I will help you with that. Email is on the 3rd slide of someone asked, where's my email? It's on the 3rd slide of the slides, and also on like one of the last slides as well. Another thing, if you notice, and your sample may have come up this way, as I'm sliding up and down, these columns stay put and the top column stays put. I find that so helpful. And here is how you can set that. If I wanted like these 3 columns to stay put while I slid all the other stuff left and right, then I would select the 3 columns. And I think this is really similar in the Microsoft realm as well. I'm doing everything in Google Drive today, but it's real similar in Microsoft. I'm going to go up to View and Freeze and tell it to go up to current column. In this case, I selected columns, up to current column. And it will, or just click the column you need and go to View, Freeze, up to column C. And so the 3 columns up to column C will stay put while I scroll. Same thing with the rows. I could select this row, View, Freeze, up to the current row. And that will hold those things in place so that I can scroll easily. And as I'm scrolling up and down, I can still see my names and I can still see my headers. And if I'm scrolling left and right, I still see my names. And so it's really useful to have. So it's a nice little tip. The other option is just selecting color. I'm going to jump to a different slideshow. Let me go over to, this one. Because I think I haven't put all the colors in this one. So just selecting color, something. Oh, you want me to do that again? Show how I say. So someone wants me to show this again. So one more time, I'll show this. So I'm going to go. I want it to freeze up to the 3rd column. So I click on the 3rd column and go to View, Freeze, and up to current column. So it'll freeze all the cells up to the 3rd column, column C. Same thing with the row. I can select the row, view, freeze, up to current row. And that will hold those rows in place so that I can scroll the rest of the spreadsheet. And all these things, like if you still need me later to figure out how did you do that, feel free to email me and I will show you. The other thing I wanted to show you guys was just basic putting color in. So I wanted all of these things about music to be based on a yellow. So I selected the columns or the cells or columns or rows or whatever I needed. I made sure I highlighted those. And when you highlight, you don't have to drag. You can always click and hold like your command or control key and select various ones if you want it that way too. It can be certain cells if you like. So I selected the ones that were specific to the music, and I just used my little dropper fill color tool and selected the color that I wanted. I could change it to blue, or I can go back up here and change it back to the yellow. I liked yellow for this one. And also for this particular spreadsheet, I did this column as well. So I wanted these to be yellow as well. So I clicked my little thing, clicked my little paint bucket and selected the color I needed. I did teal for these, and I think this particular one, this section 3, I did purple. Let me make sure it doesn't go too fast on me. There we go. Oops, too fast. Let me do it again. Sometimes it's hard to drag and select the cells. In that case, you might want to try the command one to try to capture all the cells. If it drags too quickly. And I was thinking, I think I liked purple for these. And then once again, I'll get this column and make sure these are purple. So that is just a quick way to pinpoint some cells so that, oh, thank you, E, for sharing my email to everybody. So to click some cells and make them colored. In the student interest one, that is what we did here for all of this favorite activities. And this took a while by hand. There's another way to do this a little bit faster. I'll show you in just a little bit, but this took a while to do by hand. But with certain columns or certain places, I kind of went through and said, okay, I'm going to select these cells where they talked about math. And I want math to be teal. And kind of scrolled through the columns and selected the math ones. That took me a little while, but it was real specific how I wanted to grab those cells. And so I clicked the paint bucket and picked the color for them. So I kind of color coded teal for the math, yellow for the science, peach color for the social studies, and went through and did a little color coding myself with these particular columns. And there's quite a lot of kids in this main one. So it took a little while, but it really was important to me to kind of break these down without a conditional formatting, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. So let's go back over here to this one. I have a video here on exactly how to pull those colors too. It doesn't show the freezing rows. I can always make a video of that if we need to, but I do have a video that you can refer to whenever you need that walks back through what I just did to show the colors. Let's let you guys, I'm going to pray that this works. This right here should have you make a copy of these spreadsheets. The student interest sample and a multiple intelligence sample actually on this page. This should have you make a copy. So when you click it, it should come up to make a copy. I'm going to cross my fingers that this works for everybody since the forms didn't. Forms are a little different than these documents. So, and when you copy, I think it's going to make sure you're logged into a Google account, some sort of Google account. These will jump and open up in OneDrive. So if you are a Microsoft person with a OneDrive, those should jump open in OneDrive. And there's some way to make your own copy. They're in view only mode, but there's some way to make your own copy so you could edit them. But my thought would be to go in here and play, and let's take a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so, to go in and let you just explore trying that on these sample files. So these should let you have your very own copy of that data to be able to explore and try some of these things. So try now with your own copies to add some color somewhere. Give it a try yourself. These should be blank, clean copies. Let me double check, make sure that when I click it, it should bring up a blank, empty copy for you in your drive. Yeah. That might have some, this particular one might have some color, but you can go on and continue adding color. So I'll set a little timer for like 3 minutes or so. And you can tell me if you find you need more. And we'll just let you play for a little while. And if you have questions that come up, just pop them into the chat or into the actual question document like we have up here. Well, thank you for asking that question, Kalundra. Thank you for sharing that. And shout out if you're having any trouble accessing these copies of your own for the exploration time. We'll do this a few times during this session. I'm going to show you a few things, let you play, show you a couple more things, let you play, and just give you time to explore all of them. All at the same time watching my time to make sure I don't go over. And just shout out if you have any questions. Everybody's diligently working in their slides. I mean, their spreadsheets, I'm sure. Rome asked if to have access to this presentation and nieces after the session closes. I think they're putting in there. I won't change the presentation. So the link that you have that says bit.ly bold profiles 21, you will be able to access that at any time. I won't change the slideshow anytime soon. Or maybe even forever. I'm sure I'll leave it there forever. So you're able to jump to this slideshow whenever you need to. The recording of this presentation will be shared in a folder that you will get access to after the conference is over. I believe those people in charge will be putting all that together, so you could go back and get the recording of this as well. All right, just a few more seconds. Does anybody feel like they need a few more seconds, a little bit more time to work on the adding color, or you think you're ready to move on? Shout if you feel you need a minute or so more. Otherwise, I'll jump down to the next one. All righty. Let's jump on down. Next one is sorting. Sorting can be helpful, so you can, get things in the particular order you need based on the data that's in a particular column or set of columns. So this video, once again, I'll walk back through what I'm getting ready to show you. I'm going to jump over to the multiple intelligences and do a sort here. So let's say I've got this column where I figured out my numbers of how many yeses each student had. And I want to sort that in order so I can see what high numbers pop up to the top. So I can get a quick look at the ones who are really proficient in this verbal linguistic intelligence. So I would select the column and I just drop this little drop down and tell that to it'll sort the whole sheet, but based on this column. So I can sort the sheet A to Z or Z to A. In this case, I want the highest number at the top. So I'm going to go Z to A. So then I can really say I have an 8. I have this particular Jane Doe has all of them yes and everything. And these ones had 7 and these ones had 6. So these are kind of my ones that are really much quite for verbal and linguistic learners. And that might be really helpful one time when I have something that I need to do that is related to these kind of skills. Those people might be great group leaders, or they might be great speakers for the class. They might be a variety of ways I could use these students to empower them based on their skills and their strengths. So really going to play to their strengths. So if I sort these columns, I can really get an idea. Maybe I need to know who is visual. One of these is spatial and visual. Maybe I need to know who's spatial and visual. I'd sort this column instead and find out where the higher numbers pop up. Who are my kids that are really strong in spatial and visual? And this is why it's important to tell these kids to answer these honestly, so you really know who is really strong in those areas. So let me go through and do one more sort so I can show you too. Let's do naturalist real quick. So I click on the column. I'd use in this particular one in Google, it has a drop down, and Excel is the same. And I think Microsoft is very similar because it's going to be based on Excel as well. There should be a little drop down that pops up. And I just have a sorting option. So I went Z to A, which is highest to lowest, so I could see the high numbers at the top. You may need the other direction based on your needs. And if you want to get more detailed under, I believe it's data, let's say I picked a column and I did the sort range. That will allow me to add some columns, and I could say, I want to do column S based on something. And then I want it to follow after that sort. I want it to follow with another column and sort behind that, and it'll be kind of based on the previous sort. So sometimes I'll sort by scores, and then I'll sort by something behind that once I see their scores. So it'll chunk their scores, and then it'll sort. Like everybody that made a 4, I'd have another thing I want to sort based on who was in the 4. So it'll have these little double sorts. And that may sound a little confusing, but I wanted to let you know that this does exist. So you can do multiple staggering or scaffolding sorts. So that's a cool way to sort too. So does anybody need me to show that one more time? Just shout out in the chat if you want me to show you one more time. All right, so let me go down and somebody wants to see it one more time. Let's go down, even though this one doesn't have color, let's do this one, the visual spatial learner. So I'm going to select the entire column, click a little drop down, and this information is also under the data menu. If you don't see the drop down, you can do the same sorts. So you would sort the sheet by the column based on lowest to highest. It says also has a sort range. It would only sort that column, but then the rest of this data doesn't move with it. So I usually do sort sheet. And then that way I put my 7s at the top and then 6s and on down. All right, so let's let you guys have some time to play. And once again, this video right here will walk back through that whole process I just showed you. So whenever you need to go back and refer to it, there's video there too. So your turn, take your data samples that you opened up and are exploring, try to sort a couple columns. And let's take another 3 minutes or so to do that. And as always, throw questions in the question document if you need to. Or you can jump in the chat, especially if you're having any access issues. It looks like everybody was able to at least get their hands on a copy of the spreadsheets. Were there any Microsoft people? Hit a thumbs up if you are a Microsoft person that uses OneDrive. Or is most everybody a Google person? Yeah, I think most everybody's a Google. Yep, lots of Googles. All right, keep on exploring for a couple more minutes. All right, just a few more seconds. Shout out if you feel like you need another minute or so. All right, cool. All right, let's jump on. We're going to jump on to a few more things. Couple more ways to dig in and play with the data. I'll go. We'll get a little deeper now, but I don't want to go too far as to overwhelm you. Like show you, wasn't going to show you how to create those formulas. Like I did in the multiple intelligence. I don't want to overwhelm too much, but those people that want to do that, just shoot me an email. But next, we'll look into filtering. So bring out the data you're really searching out for. So let me go to the, I'm going to go to the student interest survey information. Um, like I was talking before, how I was trying to pull out just math information from here. There's a couple of quick ways you can kind of pull information out. One of them would just be to do a simple find. I usually do like Command or Control F, and a little find option comes up, and I type the word. Like so, I was searching out math to make those blue, and I'm going to jump over here to the column I might be focusing on. So I'm focusing on this particular two columns, and I searched out. It's everything that says math pops up with a hit with a little highlight on it. So then I can collect those. I can do the Control or Command select and select just those math ones and make those with that coloring feature we were doing before. I can color them like a light blue. So then I've been able to pull out quickly some stuff to give it color. And then I can go on and do another subject and another subject just by putting the words I need, the keywords or the catchwords right up here. Another way to do this that's useful is filtering. So let's say, let me get up here to the top of this column. I'm going to focus on this particular column, and I want to pull out anything that has math. So I want it to give me just the students that had math in this column. So I'm going to go up to, I think it's data, and create a filter. And it changes the column. It highlights the column. It gives me a little drop down with several different conditions that I can give to it. Right now, I'm just going to focus on some keywords. So notice down here, everything's checked. And math is one of the words. It's going to give all the different words that were typed into there. So I could just clear them all and just focus on math. If I, or any math that I see, like when I was gathering data from teachers or from families and they would put a teacher's name in, they might have put just the last name or Mrs. Jones or Ms. Jones or Mrs. Jones without a period or any of that. So I could click on all of the different responses that related to Mrs. Jones and select them and click OK. And it pulls up only the ones that gave me that response in this particular column. And I could highlight colors then, or I could just be able to hone in on the names of the students that fall under that particular criteria that I just put in. When I'm done with the filter and I want my whole spreadsheet back, you're like, where'd the rest of my students go? Just go back to up to data and turn off filter, and they'll all come back. So you'll have all of the kids back again. So that's filtering. Who wants me to do one more? Because that was a few steps. And once again, the video in the slideshow will walk you back through it. Does everybody feel like they got the gist of that? Want to see another one? Someone says yes. Okay, let's scroll down here maybe to some of these ones based on, let's see, dance. I want to know who loves dance. I'm going to do a coding activity that involves dance. I want to find my kids that love dance and let them be leaders of groups. So I'm going to select the column about interest level in dance. And I'm going to say I need the very interested ones. So there's a not interested, a somewhat interested, and a very interested were the options in the form for these kids. So I'm going to select the column that's important to me to find the information. Under data, go to create a filter. And the column switches to a little drop down right here that gives me my criteria. So there's 3 criteria here. I want to uncheck everything but very interested. Or I could clear them all and just select the very interested. Click OK. So I have a handful. So Jane Doe number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are very interested in dance. So they would be great group leaders for me to use for an activity that involves something where the kids have to create a dance or do a dance or involve a dance. I used to have this coding activity that involved dance. So there is a great way to sort. So when I want my students back again, I go to data and turn off filter. So let's give that a try. So now it's your turn again. And once again, on this slide, the video walks right back through what I just did. So if you need that, feel free to look at it and give it a try. Let's take another 3 minutes or so. And if we find we need more, I'll let you have more. So put the timer back on. So let's give 3 minutes for that. I'm going to check around for questions. Still just one right now. I'm not seeing lots of questions. That means I'm like really good at showing you how to do this, right? Thank you for saying that. All right. Is it working good for everybody? And you guys are also welcome to unmute and ask questions as well. You don't have to put everything into the chat if you don't want to. Okay, about a minute to go. All right, time's winding down. Anybody feel like they need another minute or so to explore the filtering? I know that's an annoying sound in the world for the end of the buzzer. All right, everybody good? You want to move on to the next analyzing skill that we're going to explore? All right, I think we're good. So the next one's digging deeper into analyzing the data so it makes it efficient and easy for you. And it's called conditional formatting. So this one is a little more involved. Let's go. I think it was probably this one. Or we can work with this set of data. Actually, I'm going to go back to the student interest survey. We work with this set of data. And this is what I did when I used, this one. Over here, if you see under all the pink, greens, and yellows, this is how I did these colors. And it did it for me. So I don't have to go and hunt down the words and color code them. It takes care of the color coding for you. So let me go back over to here. So what I did was select the columns that related to what I need. So I want all of these columns, if I can get it to slide over here without going too fast. All the ones where the kids rated something. So let's go through here. Other ones did rate the topics according to your interest. So we had 3 different responses here. Somewhat interested, not interested, and very interested. All through the up and down and all through all these columns. So I'm going to apply a conditional formatting to this. Let me move these windows over if they're in the way. Just make sure these windows are not in the way and that you can see. Can everybody see it okay? So for conditional formatting, you're going to tell these selected cells that when the word not interested, it pops up, I want it to be green. Or maybe very interested, I want it to be green. When not interested pops up, I want it to be yellow or somewhat interested. I'll pick my colors for that. So I'm going to have everything selected that I need the conditional formatting to apply to. And under format, I'm going to go to conditional formatting. And it's going to bring up the sidebar. And right now it has turned every cell a green fill until I give it a rule. So if it's not, right now it says, if it's not empty, make the cell filled with green. Well, that's not the criteria I want. I want to say, if the text is exactly very interested. And notice as soon as I hit tab, it does select, match what I typed in with one of the responses. You want to type it exactly. Unless you just want to say text contains, and you can tweak it a little bit so it has more options. And I'm going to change the very interested. I'm going to leave those. I'll make a little bit different green. I might go with maybe a lighter green. I'm going to make it this color green. So any of the very interesteds will pop up green. So I'm going to click there. Let's scroll around and take a look. Yeah, all the very interesteds are popping up green now. And of course, I can click back on my rule if I want to and tweak it a little bit. And I've still got all the cells selected that apply to this conditional formatting. Let's go to custom and make it a little bit prettier green. I like that green better. There we go. That's just my choice. You pick any color you want. So that's one rule for this selection. So all of these that are selected, it's going to apply to those columns only for this color coding criteria. And now I want to do one more rule based on the somewhat interested, and then another rule based on the not interested. I hope this is making sense. I can always go back through it if we need to, and the video's on there as well. So I'm going to add another rule. I'm going to keep my selected cells selected. I'm going to add another rule, and this time if the text is exactly somewhat interested, as soon as I hit tab, I'll know if I typed it right, because it's, even though I did a lowercase right there, it still works. And I'm going to make sure these cells are filled, oops, come here, with like a kind of an orange. I might even customize that a little bit more to be more peachy colored. Oops, I did the wrong thing. I did the text. My bad. There we go. Let's customize this a little bit. There we go. I keep doing the wrong one. All right. I think we get the gist on that. So that's going to color those like a little bit more of a peachy color. And then I'm going to say done. So now I have 2 rules. For the selection of columns, I have green for the very interested, peachy colored for the somewhat interested. Now I'm going to do one more for the not interested. So text is exactly. And I'm going to make those like a pink. So almost like stoplight colors, but a little bit different version of them. And so my rules are here. And as I scroll through those columns, my colors are already applied for me based on my criteria. And I can close this window whenever I need. I can close the tab, and it closes out that window and gets it out of my way. Whenever I need it back, I just select those cells again and go to Format, Conditional Formatting. It'll bring that window back up for me to use. And it's going to apply to just those columns. If I click another column, the rules all disappear because they don't apply to this column. They only apply to these columns. I hope that makes sense. It's conditional formatting can get confusing, but it is so useful. It would have been really good when I was back in this other column when I was pulling out the names. I could have done a conditional formatting here based on if the text contains the word math. Then I don't have to have exact words. I can just put a keyword in there. And let's say if I put math here, it'll still pop up some of the ones, and then I can give it a color. And you don't have to give it a fill. You can give it text color, strike throughs, underlines, bold. You can give it a few different ways to highlight that cell other than just filling the color of the cell. You can do whatever you want. If you notice when I kept making a boo-boo, it was the text color that was changing instead of the cell color. So you can do whatever you want with that. I'm going to cancel this particular one then. So anyone want to see it again? Shout out if you're like, show me that one more time. So I think you're good. This is definitely my favorite way of organizing and analyzing my data, especially when it comes to color. It takes care of all of the work for me. I just have to give it a condition. So give that a try now. So let's go back at your turn and use that sample data again. Give it a try on yours. Video is here if you need to see how to do it again. So that will help you really color code some things. So it really helps things stand out. Because it's a me thing, and I'm sure probably a lot of you are the same way, that color jumping out at me really helps me pull what I need out of the data to focus in on certain students and their needs and their interests or whatever it is that data is. So let's take a couple more minutes on that. And then we'll jump on. I want to find out what were your favorite ways of organizing the data. So I'll put that up there in just a minute. Yeah, you're right. I did do a little bit over, didn't I? If anybody needs to jump out, please do. Because 9:30 to, well, I think it's 9:30 to 10:50 was what I thought. But if anybody needs to go, please do. Everything else you need is on the slideshow. I'll check the document in a minute. Someone else jump in and tell me what you had for. Someone else has 10:50. If you feel you need to go, please do. Everything's on the slideshow that you would need, and the recording will be there. But I was thinking 10:50 was what our ending time was. So, yeah. But if someone needs to jump out, feel free, and there will be a recording of the rest of this as well. But if you're staying, keep on. All right, a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds. Anybody need a little more time with this one? This formatting? I mean, this analyzing option? Confused about filtering? Does anybody need me to show filtering again real quick? Let me do a quick look at the filtering. We go back to, which one did I filter? Let's go back to this one here. You're welcome, Eve. All right, so let's look at filtering again. So let's say I want to filter out anyone. Let's change it to science this time. If I want to filter out anybody that had science in there, I can click on so it's going to be based on a column or a set of columns, but I'm going to click on a particular, I'm just going to do it with this column right now and filter out only the students who said science in this column. So when I've got the column selected, I go to data and create a filter. And that it changes the column to a little green area. So I have a drop down with some of that similar criteria kind of thing. I could change some sorting. I can do different things. Filter by condition. So I could use some of those same conditions I just did with conditional formatting, But in this case, anything that was typed into that column shows up here. So I'm going to clear all of the options and just select anything that says science. Science. Notice there were more than one thing that said science. So I'm going to select anything that said science and the responses. And then I'm going to click OK. So the remaining cells that pop up, the remaining rows that pop up are students that said science in this column. And then at that point, I can always copy these columns only and put them in I can put another tab at the bottom and scroll up a little bit. I can put a tab down at the bottom and make a new tab that says my science kids favorite activity, and I can make another tab and copy those rows and paste them into another tab to keep them safe. Or I can just look and jot down the names of the kids that love science. And then when I need to get all of my cells back again, all my rows back and get my students back, I go to data and turn off filter. And the spreadsheet goes back to normal. You feel like that answered it okay? Cool. Alrighty, so let's bump on over to a quick little questioning thing. Document is still there for the questions, but what we want to do is let's vote real quick. What was your favorite from the 4 ways to analyze the data? So there's a dot storming page here. Let's go. I don't know if everybody's ever used dot storming before. It's really cool. I love dot storming. This is when you click to it, it should come up looking like this. And you should be able to enter your name. You can enter anonymous if you want to, something anonymous, but you don't have to put your name if you don't want to. I'm not sure everybody will see all of them, but when you click it in and join, you should see little hearts underneath these and click what was your favorite. I think everybody should get 1 vote. And start voting for, did you like the adding color the best? Did you like sorting the best? Filtering the best, or conditional formatting the best? Let's vote and see what everybody likes. Let's take a couple seconds to let everybody get in, add themselves, and votes. All right, see some votes popping up. A lot of people for conditional formatting. It's definitely very powerful. Keep on jumping in. We'll keep on voting. Filtering and conditional formatting definitely helps. And it's kind of like if you were a fan of the adding color, then you love the conditional formatting because it kind of takes care of it for you. I'll give a few more minutes, let you keep voting. If you've never seen dot storming before, this is such a useful tool. I love this little activity. It lets you set up the board. You can set it up so students add their own responses and then go vote for each other's responses. Or you can set it up like this where you just vote. And I put the responses in myself. They call these little responses cards. So I put the 4 cards in for you, just let you vote. This is cool. Looks like conditional formatting is definitely winning thing. I'm glad I showed you that. All right. I'll keep letting that roll. Let's go back over here. We're going to spend about 5 more minutes just doing a little bit more wrap-up stuff. The next thing I want to mention is now that we've got these spreadsheets with all this data, it's a lot of data, but you might not use every bit of it all the time. So I usually work with making what's called a profile spreadsheet. I do a separate spreadsheet and I copy and paste all the kids' names in here in order if you want to. You can even use the sorting feature for that as well. But I start pulling up columns. I add columns throughout the year of things that are important to me at that time. So I might want to add parental information, addresses. That commute to school was real important to me, so I wanted to get that information from the kids and put it in there. Their favorite subject was definitely important. I could even add another column that said least favorite subject. They're iReady. We use iReady, so I wanted to focus on the standards that the kids were below grade level. So I could focus on where their needs are, where they need to really focus, and even high on grade level too. And it also groups for you. It does this really cool grouping, so I could tell what group the kids were in based on the iReady from the BOY, MOY, and EOY assessments. You can do EOG scores, interest levels on those topics. I, searched out which was their interest levels and kind of typed them in. And this might take a few minutes, but it's the one thing I need that week. And, in another week I might say, oh, I want to gather some information on something, something. And then I put another column in. So this is like my running student profile based on the information I need at that time. And it just makes a great thing to be able to jump back to whenever I need this info from the kids and be able to jump to it and look at it, sort it, search out, do conditional formatting here if I need to based on how many students. Sometimes at a glimpse you can see them all, but if you need to format, you can. But this is a neat little tool to be able to use just to have all that data you get from the spreadsheet is big and it's a lot of stuff. This can help you contain it into another place. It's an extra step, but it's nice to have. And you do this kind of periodically throughout the year. And you'll have this profile that builds and grows throughout the year. Anybody administrator in this group today? Elise is asking, do you add data manually as well as with the form? Right. Yes. On this slide here, I would just manually add some of these, like this particular one, that interest level part of the student spreadsheet. I pulled from there and just add it manually, or it might just be one day I needed to know this info, like the commute to school. I just gather it and add it in myself. So this is kind of a manual thing. Or you can copy and paste some information from the other spreadsheets into here. Just make sure everything's sorted by the students' names. Is that the question you were asking, Elise? Okay, cool. All right, so is anybody an administrator in our group today? If you are, this is also really useful stuff for doing with your teachers. Do your surveys and your profiles on your teachers. And also you like that passion board, the what can we do board that I use with my middle schoolers, have that up in the school and let all the students in the school fill out that board. And the board stays up for a while. Teachers can see what kids are passionate about what, even if it's not in their classroom. So these are things you could do school-wide as well. Let's go quickly through. I'm going to zip through these slides real quick. You can look through these at any time you want, but next steps, what do I do once I have the data? How do I use it to drive my lessons? Like when I do something called a playlist or a pathway, the data from them and how I want to group the students is real useful in how I give different playlists or pathways. Pathways are like, give the kids a choice and then they come back and share, and then give them another choice and they come back and share. There's a sample here that we did with our third grade kids one year. There's some playlists here that are just step-by-step contracts type of things, tasks in order, but you might use that data to determine specific tasks for specific students. And these two resources, HyperDocs and Quizalots, are great for that. Other things are choice boards and passion projects. Those are great for grouping your kids and using that data. If you're interested in choice boards and you're free tomorrow at 12:30, I'm giving a session on choice boards with a purpose. Really getting deep on making your choice boards useful based on this data. So there's some examples of some of our choice boards. These just got started. We didn't quite get to finish these, but they're started. And then also collaborative, ideas of ways you want to do collaborative for the kids. All right, there was one more sharing thing. I know we're running out of time. There's a couple of columns on the share Padlet, which are the type of information you would like to keep in your profile spreadsheet and the ways you'll drive, but you don't have to fill that out right now. You can go back later. My email is here, and let me give you the code so you can get your credit, and then we can go back and look at that Padlet. I'm going to pull this out of the way. Can y'all see? I need to refresh your slideshow on slide 24. There's a QR code for the app, or there's also a link here to get to the attendance form. So you can fill out your form. And the last slide, I'll put this slide back up in a second, is a link to a feedback survey. So please fill that out and give us some feedback. But let me leave this up for a moment. And if you have some time on slide 22, answer those questions in the Padlet as well. So we've got like 3 more minutes till our ending time. So I'll leave this up. And also if you want to jump on the Padlet and just share things that you might want to put in your individual profile spreadsheet and ways that you might use that information later. And thank you all for joining. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you found at least one thing. If you found one thing out of this session that you enjoyed, I'm excited. Okay, see you, Heather. Oh, interesting. Yeah, they must have just got some times wrong in the Nieces. And feel free to jump in at questions on the questions doc. You can come back anytime and get to all of these links and documents whenever you need to. And I'll try to add the chat transcript in there as well. You guys are so welcome. Glad you joined.